Good evening. Once again, we're here for another Thursday night enrichment study. My name is Pastor James Godwin. We're being brought to you this ways by the Hub, which is Destiny International Ministries, located at 6600 Hallelujah Boulevard in Wendell, North Carolina. Um, Tonight, we're continuing the discussion that we've been having for uh, several the last several enrichment studies. Our topic is the man designed. And we're not only going to talk about the way that God designed us, which we did speak about over the last couple of sessions, but we also want to talk about how, as a man of God, you can uh, live up to the expectations that God had in mind when He designed us. We're going to talk about how to live those expectations out in your family life, in your work life. Um, Also, as funny as it may sound, as we are interacting in the church and other parts of our communities, we also want to not be so egotistical that we can't talk about some of the challenges as well. And so tonight, once again, my guests tonight are. Well, I'm going to start in the order that I see them on the screen. So first off, there's barbecue cook extraordinaire, the man that we call the best man in the Christian world, Toriano Armstrong. He is one of our deacons at Destiny International Ministries. Also, to the very bottom of the screen, a very dear friend of mine. He is the youth pastor at the Faith Tabernacle Christian Center in St. Paul's, North Carolina, Eric Sanders. And don't let the quietness fool you. The man can sing a tune. I know that for an absolute. And then also, straight out of the jungles of of urban warfare, we're looking at another one of our deacons, Maurice Fuller. He is also one of our great deacons at Destiny International Ministries. And now pulling up, last but never least, he is the pastor of Kingdom Ministry in Raleigh, North Carolina. Once again, a dear friend, not just to me, but to also the Destiny family, Pastor Vernell Leach. Good evening, gentlemen.
Shalom, shalom.
Good evening.
All right. So we are going to get right into it. I know that we were having a few technical difficulties our last session, so I want to pick up where we began last week. And one of the things that we were talking about, we were having a discussion as to the reduction in the numbers of black men in the church. And I know my friend Pastor Sanders had spoke on that for a couple of minutes, but unfortunately we did have some technical difficulties. So once again, Pastor Sanders, if you don't mind, I'm going to throw that question back out to you. When we're looking at the diminishing numbers of black men in the church as it compares to the number of black women in the church. What do you think are some of the issues that attribute to that phenomenon?
Well, God bless you, brother, and thank you, and definitely to all the men that are on the call and everyone in the support. We're just honored to be here again. To all of the members of Destiny International, my question that we dealt with on last week was dealing with why are black men, I guess, leaving the church, if I could say that generally. I don't remember everything I said, but I could try to speak very quickly to the gist of it. I think there's a number of issues that, in general, the black church should be concerned about. When I say the black church, of course, I mean primarily the membership, that particular demographic, of course. Our churches are communities of faith, and we're called to worship, and we're called to disciple individuals for Christ. But the messaging as it relates to men, sometimes in some of our churches, and y'all remember I said this last week, I'm not necessarily talking about destiny, but in some of our churches, the messaging and the message as it's related to men can be kind of lost. What I mean is the language sometimes in some of our Black churches. Black men just don't get some of it. Our churches are geared, and the Black church are geared towards emotion, geared towards feelings. And for many Black men, we're not really moved by emotion. Generally speaking, we're not moved by emotion. I was joking with some friends of mine in ministry, and that grew up in the church. And one of the things, and some of this came, Pastor James, from talking about youth ministry in the past. And one of the things, one particular brother told me, who's also a barber, he said, man, I just couldn't get with the fact that everything was emotional. We're being moved by the Spirit, and the services are long, and we're still just going, boom, 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 boom. And I mean, I don't know about y'all's background, but that's something I can relate to. And so, but to a lot of men, that emotional side just ain't really that appealing. We want to hear the word. We want to be moved by the word. We want to hear point by point how the word can change our lives. And the emotional side doesn't always appeal to men. Even when we talk about language to a brother, to a man, you're talking about being in relationship with God. For some men, that language isn't comfortable. We want to worship God. We want to be soldiers of Christ, but worship, I mean, being in relationship. I mean, some of these brothers, now I'm not talking about y'all, Destiny. Some of these brothers don't even want to be in a relationship with another woman. And you're talking about language that implies emotion and feeling towards God. Now, we know God is a spirit, okay? But to some men, when they hear certain words, it's feminized. I mentioned this, I think, last week. There's almost, in some cases, an emasculation that occurs with some men because of the direction of how ministry goes, the language of how ministry goes. And I think I also mentioned this, the standard that's there. If all you see in front of you are leaders, and if they're men, and they're effeminate, they're, traditionally in some of our churches, in the choir stand, and in some of our churches, in the pulpit, men that are not real men, but effeminate in their presentation and effeminate in the way they carry themselves. That's a turn off to brothers. I've heard people refer to it as an alpha male. That's a turn off to an alpha man. We're a male. We want to see a real man in leadership. And I would challenge my brothers on this call. That means we need to, and this is kind of going towards, I believe, some of the solutions. We need to teach men what it means to be a man. We need to teach men in leadership what it means to be a man, what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. So I'm trying to keep it brief, Pastor James, because I will run with the topic. But I would say those three things: the language, the environment, and making sure you set standards. Because remember, like I said, game recognized game. If we see people up in front of us and they ain't real, Black men will pull away in a minute. They will. So God bless you. I'll defer to the other brothers on the panel. I don't want to take up everybody's time.
No problem. No problem. So, Deacon Terriano, same question. In your opinion, what are some of the things that may attribute to a falling away of Black men in the church?
I would give two answers to the same question. I would say that one of the answers is it's a part of prophecy being fulfilled in the Bible, because the Bible speaks about a great falling away in these times. So that's one. And also number two, I would say lifestyle and culture, as you may. What I mean by lifestyle is, nowadays with men being busy as they are, well, so-called busy, that a lot of men have lost their calling or lost their need to have God in their life. Now, since a lot of us Black men has become successful or whatever, or have good paying jobs, so we have some men have pushed God to the back burner and say, hey, we got this big house we live in now. We got our cars. We have our family. So now they don't want to go to church no more because they feel that, God is not valuable to them anymore. I can go back to like back in the past, I can speak with my grandparents and stuff. They could tell us that, hey, church was a natural thing for them. They went 3 times a week, Sunday, then mostly on Mondays, then Wednesdays. So that's 3 days a week they went to church because, back then, they didn't have all the technology they would have now, all the phones, the TVs and stuff. What they done back then was they went to work and come home and take care of their families. And so, but now with the business of life now, everything has changed around. I would say that the people have become too busy to say that, hey, we need to get up on Sunday morning, we need to go to church, or we need to go to Bible study in the middle of the week, or we need to go to prayer on Mondays, whatever. Because, like I said, just the lifestyle, I believe, has gotten people off track.
All right, thank you. Pastor Leach, same question, in your opinion.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Godwin, for having the panel. Thank everyone that's on the panel. The Destiny International brothers on the line as well. Blessings. Good to see you all. Yeah, the example. Simply living the life where we all know somebody that maybe fell into a backslidden state for whatever the reason. So then that example say, well, where are the real men? Well, the real men are the ones that are restoring such. In the armed forces, I never served, but I'm sure Brother Fuller can tell us a little bit more. Just because one of your comrades have been wounded, you don't leave them because they've been wounded. That man has more skill, knowledge, and special abilities than anybody would ever know. He can still help you fight, and don't throw away your brother. I believe that's one of the paramounts there of real brothers showing real scars, saying, hey, look, this is what I survived. As you said earlier in the broadcast, not trying to be holier than thou, but every now and then show some people some battle scars, show some people some wounds, because the Lord so marvelously arrayed us, they won't know it. They won't know it unless we tell them, what has happened.
Yeah.
So I would say being real, keeping it 100, not based upon theology, not based upon your degree, not based upon anything except God's Holy Spirit dwelling richly in a man. That's my input.
All right. Okay. And all right. Now down to you, Officer Fuller, as we like to call you sometimes. Like I said, same question. In your opinion, what has contributed to the reduction in the number of Black men in the church over the last few decades?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, man. I would say family, and people. And when I say people, is who are you surrounding yourself with? What you're listening to? What you seeing? Uh, people react on what they hear and what they see. So that's probably like in a nutshell. Well, I see this in church. I hear this in church. What's going on? Family declining the family. I see family being torn apart. Brothers and sisters dead. The decline. So and there's so much of a free world out here, free opportunity. God gives us free choice: serve Him or you serve the devil. So some people don't even want to hear about God. Some men don't want to hear about God. Some men are caught up in the world, the worldly goods, having a good time, they don't want to. They don't have time. They feel like the cares of the world is like it's so much on top of them, and they don't even want. They don't have time for God. They don't have time to even read the Bible, to crack open the Bible, or to surround themselves with godly men or people. So in those two aspects, uh, again, it like the pastor said earlier. Uh, you you got to want. You have to surround yourself with good godly people. They continue to
Mhm.
continue to spread the word to them and to motivate them. Now you can't break nobody from being Bible, but at least you could put positive input uh, into their life, like planting the seed in there. It's up to them, or they're going to let it die. So that's my.
Okay, thank you. All great answers. I would, as far as my 2 cents, um, going back to something that Pastor Sanders had mentioned when he talked about, what we gravitate towards. And it was interesting because I had this conversation with my wife a couple of weeks ago. And, I agree 100% for number one, for men, we gravitate towards practical applications, towards seeing something in action. And what I mean by that is we want to see when we talk about, um, whether it's turning the other cheek, praying for your enemies, being able to do everything in excellence as if you were doing everything unto the Lord. We want to see those things in action. We want someone to show, okay, I want Brother Tariano to show me what, okay, doing everything in excellence is as if I'm doing it for God. What does that mean? Okay. How can I walk this word? First of all, speak to me. I like what Pastor Eric said about the language. Speak to me in a manner that I can understand the word, but also teach me how I can take this word, make it relative to my life, so that I can walk with that word within me. And I do agree. I think that we particularly when you look at America and the Black church, most of the Black churches that are getting the fanfare are those that are led by people that are stirring emotions. And I'm not talking about any particular church or congregation or fellowship in particular. But when you look at the situation of that a little over 63% of the Black churches are made up of women, and then you watch these huge ministries, you watch their services, you watch how quote unquote charismatic some of their leaders are and how they're able to stir those emotions. But as a man, I want you to show me how to take this word and how I can open this book and put James on each and every page. That's what I want you to show me. I don't need you to stir my emotions. I need you to stir my spirit so it can be a part of this. And I think another thing that is causing a lot of undue consternation, not just in terms of how a godly man walks, but as a man, period. And I think Toriano touched on this a little bit as well. The notion of what is family. I think all of you brothers would agree over the last 10 years, when we talk about attacks, look at how the family has been attacked over the last 10 years. Now it's to the point where if you could probably ask a child, what is a family? they would probably break it down to its basest forms, and they would probably describe it as a unit of two parents, neglecting the verbiage of mother, some cases eliminating father. And so now, you're having, even down from a standpoint of children that are confused as to what is supposed to be a family. And then add to the fact that within that family, as a man, the dial keeps moving as far as society goes in terms of what a man is supposed to be and what a father is supposed to be. And just being totally honest and transparent, I'm sorry, the Bible clearly states, okay, that he made male and female. He laid out the groundwork for the male to be the father, laid out the groundwork for the female to be the mother. He didn't at no point in the Bible, and if I miss something, I got some very learned brothers on this panel. They can tell me if I'm wrong, but I never saw anywhere where they said that those two roles could be exchanged at the whim of someone just because that's what they felt like when they woke up the next day. But that's not what society wants us to embrace. Society wants us to purposely, and I agree with what Toriano said, is leading to bias. We're purposely being led to believe that regardless of what God set forth for us, it is up to the individual to embrace what they choose. And that has led to a great confusion for a man to know not only what I'm supposed to be as a man, but what am I supposed to be as a father? And I think all those complexities has caused a lot of issues in terms of men. And then when you add to the fact that if I'm going to a service, I want those things to be made clear to me. I want those things to be put into place for me. And in some cases, I go to a church that is not speaking to me about those things. My wife is stirred. My kids are happy because they're all into the music, right? My wife or my auntie might be caught up in the emotion, but I'm standing here waiting for instruction. And how do I make sense of all this? And if it doesn't come, and here's the thing too, we don't have too much patience if it comes to the fact that, like, if I go to McDonald's and I'm ordering a Big Mac, you can tell me to wait for a few seconds. You can tell me to pull up front, Mr. Sir, and I will be out there in a few minutes. A few minutes doesn't mean an hour. And it's the same thing. If we go to that church and we're not able to get what I've ordered, to get what I asked for, that's what I want on the menu, because that's what you got on your billboard. If it ain't there, I have a tendency to either go down the road, or I'm going home and fix my own meal. So, yeah. So I think that's definitely some issues when we're talking about the population in the Black church. Now we're going to, and I think Brother Leach almost did a great segue into that. Now we want to talk about how to turn that around. How can we be God's tools to take that trend and flip it on its head? And so I'll go to you again, Pastor Sanders. Your opinion, how would you look at, in your mind, what is needed to make that trend reverse?
Well, as always with everything, definitely start with prayer. We know what the word declares: if my people call by my name will humble themselves and pray, turn from their wicked ways, I'll hear from heaven and heal the land. There's a healing that needs to go on, whether that's men's ministry or and other ministry where we deal with the issues of men. I wrote down let's see if I can pull this up real quick. I wrote down some, yeah, that's what it was. I think we need to be very strategic in our prayer for men and men's ministry. I think we need to be concerned about how we're doing outreach to men. Outreach to men is very specific, and it has to be a strategy of men reaching out to men. And doing that requires some of the things we said earlier, noticing the difference between how men receive the message of the gospel and how our sisters and women receive the message of the gospel. I think we also need to be sensitive, Pastor James, to the fact that many men, especially in urban areas, many men are being raised up in single parent households. And so the image of what a father and what the godly ordained orders are, some of that has to be dealt with our men, both in godly teaching, biblical based teaching, but also in making sure that we honor the roles that God has given. I think it shows sensitivity to that. Also, just like ministry to youth is, it must be relevant to their needs. Now, I'm not saying that our churches need to become a barbershop or it needs to become a pool hall or it needs, I'm sure my age saying pool hall, or that it needs to be just a
same here
or just a sporting event. I mean, all of those are things we can use for fellowship, real fellowship. But we need the word fundamental to what we're doing in outreach. So it was mentioned earlier. Pastor mentioned this earlier. It needs to be genuine, authentic men ministering to men, mentoring and discipling. Discipling men. So we've got to be the example, and we've got to accept brothers where they are and encourage them. I mean, you know, I and my discipline, I still try to go Sunday, Monday, Wednesday. Things come up, but nothing should supersede our heart's devotion to God. And part of that is to not forsake the assembling of ourselves together. And so much the more as we see those end days, the days rapidly coming upon us. So we've got to teach older men, teach younger men, encourage them, and in fellowship, throw out a net, grab them, love them unconditionally, and encourage them and be the example that God has called us to be. We have to be very strategic with our outreach to men.
Amen. All right, Pastor Leach. You know, and I know you actually touched on some of that, you know, in your last answer, but how, when we're talking about turning that trend around, flipping that on its ear, so to speak, what are some things that, you would lend in terms of us being able to get the men back in the church?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with what has been said, and we're talking about being real with some real brothers. If I'm talking to someone and they're street orientated, real recognize real. He's gonna know if I'm for real. I'm gonna know if he's for real, and we're gonna offend some people. We're gonna offend some people because there's a lot of cotton candy gospel out there. There's a lot of cotton candy gospel out there. One of the ways we can do this is reintroducing the book of Genesis. I'm telling you, because Ahab is clapping his hands and Jezebel is twerking.
I hear you.
Ahab is clapping his hands and Jezebel is twerking. So we have to be real as we're discipling. Visit Genesis, the whole account of what happened with Adam, Eve, and the serpent. Sometimes chapter 2 is one of the most unliked books of the Bible. for women.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody who's going to preach a women's conference, they're not going to preach Genesis chapter 2. They want to make it look like a woman out of all three is innocent.
Mm-hmm.
But we know as men, we must preach the whole Bible. We must be fair.
Yeah.
Everybody got by God. God got all three. God got. Let's be
Mm-hmm.
honest. As you said, the application. How do I apply this? Well, number one, young man, I know that you're not a homosexual. So one day, if not already, a young lady is going to be in your life. According to the word of God, you must rule your own house. How? How can you rule your own house? In other words, be the priest. Man, be the priest.
Mm-hmm.
Be the priest that God has called you to be of your household. Young brothers appreciate that. Now they
Mm-hmm.
apply it by going out getting that job. It may not be the
Mm-hmm.
best, but they have a job. And then they're taught different trades so that they can increase their manlyhood by simply purchasing something for their wife, bringing something home for the wife. Say, hey, listen, I was thinking about you, so I brought you home this. Just the simple things. It doesn't have to be Versace or Gucci or any of the
Mm-hmm.
red bottoms or anything of that nature, but just bring her the love her. Now, in doing that, it should be an automatic response. The love, the honor should be given unto you. Now, the men or young men that's being mentored, they will see this. They will see this and have real conversations with them. Let me listen. My marriage is not a polished marriage. let me put that out there. My marriage is not a celebrity marriage. It's not like, hey, here's Pastor Leach and so first lady, and we're pausing. It's just a glamour shot. I'm here to tell you, bro, that's not me. I don't have that call on my life. I don't believe the Lord called me to be that glamour shot type of guy and everything lovey dovey. But
Mm-hmm.
marriage, you better know, is war. Somebody might say, "What do you mean it's war?" What I mean by that is that the enemy hates y'all, and you better know
Mm-hmm.
how to fight spiritually. You
Mm-hmm.
better know how to fight spirit. Young boys need to understand. Just because I'm married don't mean that there are no more beautiful women in the world. But
Mm-hmm.
you got to understand,
Yep.
the Lord has given me my wife. Mine is at the house to have that attitude. You can't stop a woman from being beautiful, but you
No.
don't have to gawk her and you don't have to undress her with your eyes. You don't have to commit adultery with her in the heart. But learning how to bounce those eyes, as Bishop Farrar would say, learn how to bounce your eyes in the summertime.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
so that's my take on it right there.
Okay. All right, Deacon Fuller. Same question. Some things that you would, that come to mind when you say, "Hey, this is what we need to do to bring that population back up in terms of black men in the church."
Well, I would say at the start, the fathers to end their lives, being a good father. Um, People probably have
Mm-hmm.
cast them out. Uh, Now, who have if you have children, and they feel they they really can't mentor them because they're hurting themselves. So they have to connect back to their children, their son, teach them the proper way. Um, but like the two pastors said, I mean, it's a self thing. We have to go out and continue just to spread the word uh, to them and let them know, hey, they're important. Uh, it has to be a starting point. You can mess up, but the Lord can forgive you. For repentance, and the Lord will forgive you. But it has to be a starting point somewhere. And like I said, you have to be honest, and number two, you have to be willing. You have to be willing to be taught, to listen to who's doing the talking. So if you're not willing to listen to godly people that want to input in your life, you kind of wasted time. So my take would be is just the father getting back into the family, or if they're not, married, mom or dad, get back into your child's life because it's very important.
Mhm.
And build a relationship from up there, from Bible study, and just be taking one day at a time, one step at a time. Uh, you're not gonna be out here competing against any other Christian. You have to get it for yourself, but one step at a time, and to build the relationship back into the family, back into your son or your daughter. Again, like I just said, in the day and time right now, in 2023, we're living at, there's just so much space out here with challenges. No, you don't give up on people. Yes, it's still bad in the world, but there's some good out here in the world still. And can't,
Mhm.
can't look what's going on now, even though sometimes it's depressing, but you still have to be motivated to have a heart to still to reach out to other people that's still lost. And like I said before, you can't bend a person arm to make them come to Christ, but you can still put that seed in their life. That's the bottom line. Put that seed in their life, and what they want to do with it up to them. So that's my take on it. Maybe turn things around.
Yeah. Amen. All right. Same question. Your thoughts on what it would take to turn that around to increase the membership of or that population of black men in the church.
I would say, first of all, as us gathered men that's already in the church, for us to really recognize that, hey, that we do need to call our men back into proper order, whatever. Try to get our men to start coming back to church, or first of all, just be a good example. That's the main thing. First, being a good example, because iron sharpen iron. So as long as more men see that you are going, say, hey, this guy goes to church. He don't do a lot of cussing, or he don't do things out of order. He goes home with his family. So hey, let me try that. So I think mainly it's being an example, and just start with try to lead some men back to their calling, of being with their family. But I know that I have a lot of friends that I talk to on the phone, and they, some of them recognize even me. Say, hey man, I never heard you cuss a bit in your life, man. And they always say, hey, your conversation is always smooth and polite. You don't do no cursing. You don't talk about no crazy stuff. So I think that's the main thing, just being a good example, first of all, and just even the ones that that's out there doing wrong. I believe that we should be trying to put them back on the right path, or whatever. Say, hey man, you should be out hanging around with these women, man. You need to go ahead and get married. I know I have a few a couple of my friends that's not unmarried, and they living with their girlfriends, and hey, I always say, hey man, why don't y'all go ahead and get married? I've been living together for 10 years. I mean, why don't you just go ahead and get married?
Yeah.
So I would just say, hey, just keep on being a good example, being a godly example, and I believe men will start to come back back into the fold.
All good answers. The only thing I would add, I think a good start is what we're doing right here. The fact that when they can see men of God that all don't attend the same church, right? Because when it's a case where only men of Kojic hang together, only men of full gospel like to come together, only men who are the Southern Baptist Leadership Conference, those are the only ones that they only hang or fellowship among themselves. Now all of a sudden we're going right back to the start of a lot of issues. We're being tribal. And let's be real, it's not like we make a predominant amount of the numbers of men in America already. And now we're going to sit here and take that small portion of men in America, of black men in America, and we are going to forsake fellowshipping with one another. So it starts what we're doing right now. Pastor Lee spoke about Bishop Farad. I remember one day he told a story about bringing churches together, and he told the story of how he had about 4 or 5 churches. They all wanted to do this huge conference, and everybody was willing to do it. They settled on a date. They settled on the venue. And so we said, well, Bishop, what happened? Oh, it didn't. It never happened. We were like, well, what? Why didn't it happen, Bishop? Because then they had to figure out who was going to preach the sermon. And now all of a sudden, they didn't want to come together. No. We have to be willing to be able to not be so territorial. Like Toriano said, if I can fellowship or even just have conversations with someone who is a non-believer at work, why can't I have fellowship with believers who just happen to attend another fellowship, who just happen to attend another church? Okay. It is these things that when the young men and young men or old men, when they see that those men from different walks of life are willing to come together and to fellowship and to tackle practical issues within our community, and like what it leads to is what you've all communicated. Now it gives someone else an example. It gives someone else a practical example that, hey, this fellowship thing it works, right? Like Paul said, when it all boils down to it, we may not agree on everything, but if we agree that Jesus is Lord, that'll trump anything. That'll trump anything that's going to keep us apart. If we can agree, and I know we do, that Jesus is Lord, then that is the beginning of the solution. So tonight, I want to thank everybody for being here. We're going to go ahead and close our session for tonight. And this is just our session for tonight. We will continue next week speaking about the men that God designed. And I want to once again thank our panel, Pastor Eric Sanders, Pastor Vernell Leach, Deacon Maurice Fuller, and Deacon Toriano Armstrong. And as I've said before at the very beginning, I'm your humble servant, Pastor James Godwin from Destiny International Ministries, The Hub. I want to thank everybody for joining us. And we're now going to, right before we leave, we're going to, for any of you who are so inclined to give, we're going to now show you the ways to give if you're inclined to do so. So, ways to give. If you are utilizing Cash App, you can use the call sign, $Arise and Soar. Once again, for Cash App, it is $Arise and Soar. If you want to use the Zelle platform, that call sign is Shirley R. Brown at att.net. Once again, for Zelle, it is Shirley R. Brown at att.net. If you're using PayPal, utilize Arise and Soar 2020. Arise and Soar 2020 for PayPal. Or if you'd like to go online, you can go to destinyintministries.org/online giving, destinyintministries.org/online giving. Or if you would like to mail, whether it be a prayer request or donation or any type of information to the church, you can mail to P.O. Box 1926, Wendell, North Carolina 27591. And once again, a reminder, you can join us on for our Sunday services at 11:30 a.m. On Sundays at 6600 Hallelujah Boulevard. And you can also join us for our online prayer on Monday evenings. And then once again, as always, a Thursday night enrichment study. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I bet you all have a blessed and wonderful remainder of the week. Once again, my name is James Godwin, and I give you all blessings. I love you. And as they say, there's nothing you can do about it. Have a wonderful evening.